Alright, welcome back to another stream of 80 days as part of our historical chronology playthroughs. And yeah, we're gonna continue this fictional story set in the year 1872, where a British gentleman has made a wager with other British gentlemen about whether or not it would be possible to circumnavigate the world within 80 days. And yeah, we have started with the game, and we're now on day 23. And I've actually compared, because we're kind of trying to recreate the original route, at least partially, as much as it's possible. And we're actually behind the original story at this point, because the journey to Bombay, from Suez to Bombay, I think it is, takes about 20 days in the novel, and we haven't even made it to Bombay yet, and we're already 3 days above that. So I think in order for us to actually make it within the 80 days, we definitely have to be faster. So I'm gonna try to be more efficient, but it's gonna be tricky because the game, of course, is only partially based on a novel, and you meant to like traverse the entire world if you want to. I mean, technically you could actually go, instead of eastward, you could go westward, or you could go, you know, through the Arctic and go like northward or something. And as I learned, a lot of the locations in the games are actually not possible to visit until you've made several playthroughs of a game. So yeah, I do wonder how much it would be a possibility to actually create or recreate the same route, but still, you know, staying under the 80 days limit. But yeah, there's definitely a possibility we're not gonna make it in 80 days, but I guess that's just the more realistic version. Because yeah, 80 days was definitely a bit short for the time. But it's certainly interesting because there's been lots of imposters and people trying to recreate the same journey afterwards. And yeah, I think one person made it in like about 100 or so days. Not too far off. Welcome in, everyone. Hello there, Froglord. Good day. Hello there, Okorki. Welcome in. Hello there, Ave. Yeah, I'm having a pretty decent weekend so far. Been a very chill day over here. How about you? Hello there, Dex. Welcome in, Dex, and thank you so much for the 10 months of resubbing. Thank you, thank you. I hope you're having a good morning so far, and work is nice and chill and quiet. Crookie Dookie, don't you mean Crookie our Brookie? Yes. That's me. Glad to hear that, Ave. Yeah, I hope you've also been enjoying the DLC for Resident Evil. Looked like a nice amount of fun if you just wanna, you know, spend some time with game mechanics. "10 months already? My, time flies." It does indeed. Yeah. Oh, to be honest, I kind of feel like I've known you for longer now. But I guess, you know, sometimes it can depend like how much, I guess you also interact with a person and stuff.
Everybody benefits, especially you.
Eagerly waiting for Tuesday. Is Tuesday when Eurovision Song Contest starts or something? Or when is that happening? DC was a lot of fun. Played a few hours of it and it was a great time. Nice. Roguelike combined with mercenaries, basically. Yeah, the mercenary mode looked like a good amount of fun. I watched Lucinda play a bit of it in Resident Evil 4. Exploring the world, everybody benefits. Especially you. Hello, Dr. Darling, welcome in. And yes, indeed, we're gonna carry on with our journey. We're currently on the way to India, to Bombay. But we're already behind. So we would have to be actually quite a bit faster now going forward to make it within the 80 days. Hello Vashila, welcome in. Ahoy. And yeah, hello again. I hope you had a good time with Hogwarts Legacy. How did you like your first session with it? Ah, gotcha, Ave. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, once you have semi-finals, it definitely increases the hype quite a bit. But yeah, it's gonna be cool, you know, for you to have that season coming up again. Does Sweden have a strong contender again this year? So I think this is something I'm gonna do more often now because last time we kinda did a lot of chatting while the game was running and the time passes, you know. Of course it doesn't pass within dialogues. So that's also something for me to utilize, but if I ever have to talk with chat while the time is technically running, I definitely will have to pause because otherwise I would just lose too much time. Because it really advances fast and there's like certain deadlines. You know, when the next traveling opportunity leaves, basically. So that can be really tricky, like even if you're there in time, like even if you're there 2 hours before the like train leaves or whatever, there might still be things you have to prepare while you're boarding the train or something. And there's been like a few situations where I almost missed the train even though I was there in time. So if I want to make it in the 80 days, I will definitely have to make use of the settings and that way pause the game. Gotcha, Ave. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Not every year can be like, you know, a total smash hit. And not every year can be like sauna level. Get sidetracked by chat and good convos. Nope, nope, could never happen. Never. Never ever, Mr. Clever. Alright, so we are in Aden, 7:15 PM. And we can just stay at a hotel, I guess, but also going to Bombay, right? That's over here. Okay. And when does the train leave? Okay, let's just go to bed. I lay down to sleep and heard a rumbling through the pillow. I was no doubt my stomach. I've always considered myself an excellent eater, but the world, it seems, is full of different ideas of eating. Oh, very nice, Shilla. I'm glad you enjoyed the game so far. I did really like the beginning to the game. You know, getting to explore Hogwarts and the ins and outs of it. and also going to Hogsmeade. There's definitely not a lot of care that went into recreating those locations. Let's try to derail me. Did you hear the story about... It won't work. Don't you see the time? It's not passing at the moment. No time for dilly-dallying. Okay, so... when do we leave again? Is there anything I can sell here? For lots of money. That's where you bought in Bombay? I'm gonna sell this to make a bit of space here. Could go to the bank. Monsieur Fogg looked quite resolved. We must once again make a demand upon the bank, I fear, he declared. I regarded the bank as we entered. Small and somewhat squalid, it was a mere outpost. Want to make a withdrawal? The manager said. You may have to wait a day or two. We cannot afford even a single day, I declared. We swept out of the bank. Thankfully our situation is not desperate, my master declared. Onwards. I mean, we have a bit of money on our hands here, but yeah, at this point I can't waste days. Let's explore. The British-administered port of Aden was dramatically situated in the crater of a dormant volcano. Whitewashed buildings and delicate minarets gleamed against sheer black cliffs, and sleek-bodied ships floated in the bright water of a natural harbor. There was a regular service from Aden to the British Indian city of Bombay. A fair passo of artificers have been boarding the steamers, said one of the sailors. It will be an interesting trip. You know how artificers love to gossip? I made an especial effort to savor the warm sun and clean air of the coast. It would not be long before we were back aboard some contraption or other reeking of smoke and steam. Hello there, Armageddon. Welcome in, and thank you for the lurk. Okay, let's plan. I want to go to Bombay. So what? Can't take the steamer further to Bombay? So this is like the route of a novel and I really want to recreate it, but right now it's not giving me the option. It arrives Monday. I mean, there's a direct line here. Maybe I just have to wait until the Mongolia keeps on going. Okay, let's stay at the hotel. As night fell, I buffed and showed my master's pocket watch. To better prepare us for our inevitable departure. Dude, I still can't depart to Bombay? Why? I actually have to go to Muscat. $11 AM. Well, I really don't want to waste any time, you know. Let me just look up something real quick. Okay. Well, that kind of sucks, but that's what is happening. You basically can't take the same ship or train twice. I don't think that makes any sense, to be honest, because in the novel you have a stopover in Aden. But yeah, that's why I can't take the ship further to Bombay. So I guess it means you can't actually recreate the route from the novel. And I would depart to Muscat. Maybe there's a way for me to get to Bombay from here. Hello there, Mita. Welcome in. Good day to you. And yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Having a nice chill day so far. How about yourself? Larger passenger liner struck out from Aden across the Arabian Sea for India to be changed onto a smaller, faster boat that would hug the Arabian coastline and take us around to Muscat, which was notorious as a pirate haven and therefore sounded ripe for exploration. Nice, Amita, that's good to hear. Okay, so we can inquire about the Muscat Bombay route here. Let's just say that you can obtain jars of turmeric in Bombay that will sell for a fortune in Singapore. Okay. Monsieur Fox spent the first day aboard our small liner watching the horizon and making calculations in his ledger. I would not say he was concerned. Concern was not his métier, but he was clearly pausing to assess our progress. I asked for his verdict, and he thought carefully before answering. I fear our strategies so far have been less than ideal, he replied, but I've no doubt we will adjust and improve. I mean, he's not wrong. We're like, actually quite behind at this point. And I mean, even the novel was like pretty tight, you know, like they literally arrive in 81 days. So yeah, we definitely have to make up with the time here. I was arranging Monsieur Fogg's toiletries on the makeshift dresser when he caught my eye in the mirror. I have been contemplating the boat, Passepartout, he murmured, and it seems to me that it could be moving with more alacrity. Enough to bring us in a day early? Perhaps even two, he replied pensively. I believe it should be possible for us to arrive in Muscat today. It would be a fortuitous turn of events. And I said as much. Monsieur Fogg nodded. See to it. He retired to the sun deck after explaining his scheme, leaving me to plot out its execution. Okay, let's talk to the engine crew. Your master is quite right, one told me. The boat can do 2 or 3 times the speed, if enough coal is shoveled into her boilers, but the captain doesn't like to do it because it wears the engine out faster. Wondering if they could be tempted by money. I offered a small bribe, but they shook their heads in turn. We cannot go against the wishes of our captain. We'd be put off at the next port. I explained I had to try for much the same reason. The men, sympathetic, agreed to put in a word to the chief at the end of the day. 2 days early might be impossible, but a saving of 1 could still perhaps be made. Monsieur Fogg woke with some displeasure to find we had not magically arrived at Muscat overnight, but his mood lifted when he looked out of the cabin porthole. I peered as well, and was startled to find the coastline flashing past. Passepartout, you have effected this salutary acceleration? I have, monsieur, I replied. We will arrive today, he said firmly, a hint of pleasure warming his usually cool tones. Come, we must enjoy the sea air while we have it. We spent an enjoyable day playing tweets? Quotes? Voids? A subpar variant of boats designed for the deck. The boat swept magnificently into Muscat harbor just as the sun was going down. On the gangplank, we were stopped by the ship's captain. My men tell me that our little burst of activity was on your account, he began, with a dark tone in his voice. It was, I replied, and we are most grateful for your assistance. It was my honor, he replied. Godspeed to you, and I wish your sister well. My sister? I asked. Indeed. My chief engineer told me the men had been most distressed by what had happened to your sister. I hope you get her back from those pirates. Good luck. I guess I could have just played along. To not raise any suspicion. He clapped me on the shoulder and turned away. I avoided Fogg's eyes. He was grateful for the speed, of course, but I was less sure of his reaction to such blatant dissembling. Okay, let's go to the market here. Worth 5,800 in Madras. Oh, come. No route to Bombay. For fuck's sake, game. I spent a few hours wandering Madras souk, known by the rather ominous title the Souk of Darkness, because the stalls and lanes are so thickly crowded that sunlight doesn't penetrate within. I felt like Theseus in the Minotaur's labyrinth. AC Odyssey reference. Biscuits full of worms, probably. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. Only I had no Ariadne to guide my way amongst the various twists and turns. I was, however, in search of a very particular quarry. Pirates. This was the dreaded pirate course after all. I inquired discreetly at an antique store, which had a variety of expensive, rather scuffed merchandise arranged in tumbled piles. Pirates are enemies of the chic, the storeholder intoned piously, though he was unable to stop himself from adding a bitter remark, and certainly no excuse for the British to bring their ships and soldiers to our shores. "I am hardly British," I exclaimed in affront. "Monsieur, surely I have not fallen so far that you mistake me for an Englishman." "I am French." The storeholder rolled his eyes. "That is hardly better. Now, my friends, I cannot deny that this callous indifference wounded me, and deeply." I began to sing La Marseillaise. It was not discreet, but how could one demonstrate the grandeur, the wonder of a French nation with discretion? "Sir, please stop," he pleaded, wringing his hands and sounding unaccountably quite alarmed. "If I tell you about pirates, would you go away?" he pleaded, and I assured him I would. That's how you get them. Just sing some French songs and they're gonna just try to get rid of you. The storeholder gave me the name of a pirate who supplied his store with contraband artifacts, an Omani who had converted to Hinduism, and made his fortune raiding vessels traversing the Arabian Sea. Captain Balaram of the airship Gandiva even now docked in Port Caboose. Well, at least we can go to Dwarka now. Yes. This departs tomorrow at 8 AM, bright and early. But yes, let's do that. Before going to bed, I went to stretch my legs and found a cheerful Turkish artist who was searching for a dog, which I found near a food store. The artist thanked me, and as we talked, remarked that you could obtain tobacco in Bombay, extremely valuable in Hong Kong. I asked him how he knew, and he launched into a long and complicated story about his mother's employer, sister-in-law. A convoluted tale, the only interesting point of which was the fact that merchants in Nova Goa would pay fantastic amounts for Persian pottery from Bandar Abbas. Okay, we gotta be quick now. Okay, shit. Hold on. Embark. Hire more space. Yes. The Gandiva was a distinctive little airship, painted bright red and covered in hundreds of dented gold bosses, with a flag painted with a flying monkey garlanded with flowers fluttering from its mast. Captain Balaram matched his ship, wearing a heavily embroidered red coat and turban, with a jewel-hilted cutlass slung over his white dhoti. A fine ensemble, and one I'm not ashamed to admit I envied. Regarding the ship, however, Monsieur Fogg's lip Finned slightly in distaste. Well, I'm gonna be consistent here, which I couldn't fathom. This was the stuff of Penny Dreadfuls and adventure stories. Fogg didn't like that I actually enjoyed his style. Okay, can we finally get to Bombay? Okay. As it was only a day's journey to Dwarka, we dined with the captain in the evening. The captain regaled us. I spoke with the captain's wife, a charming Gujarati lady who told me of Hindu gods. We fly the flag of Hanuman, son of Vayu, fleet of mind, and she added with a devilish twinkle, beloved of the wind. But our conversations was interrupted by a siren's wail. Is it serious? I demanded, leaping to my feet. The captain stood up also. We are being pursued, he informed us grimly. I'm sorry, gentlemen, but our journey may take longer than anticipated. Ah, great. So I guess pirates have followed us? In the morning light, Monsieur Fogg discovered that our pursuer was a girderless, passenger-type British naval airship, which changed his attitude to the situation. It appears the Gandiva acts against British interests, he said, as I heated the water for his morning shave. We have a duty to aid Her Majesty's Navy. I had no such duty, being a citizen of France and not a subject of Her Majesty, but I said nothing to spare my master's feelings. He proposed that we, that is I, should sabotage the Gandiva. And I agreed. Readily. For my assault I chose a vertiginous essay on the engines, which necessitated climbing the rope ladder strung up to the envelope and performing something of a miracle with a spare pair of trousers. Hurled at the propellers with a deadly accuracy. The engine scuttered and stalled, and we began to descend. Monsieur Fogg had everything under control on the observation deck. Matters moved quickly. Naval officers boarded the Gandiva within the hour, arrested the captain and his wife, and diverted us to Bombay without so much as a "by your leave." And so it was that we arrived in the jewel of the British Empire, the vast dominion of India. Noise. Monsieur Fogg cared not a straw for the wonders of Bombay, but gave me a few hours' leisure as he set it to his evening paper. I ended up wheezing and puffing my way up to Malabar Hill, the highest point in South Bombay. Oh, whoops. I paused at the top to look towards the city. I could see the gas lamps along the Queen's Necklace of Marine Drive being lit one by one in preparation for the evening, and palm trees waving in the salt-scented breeze. Catching my breath, I found my steps irresistibly drawn towards the Hanging Gardens, which shaded the Parsi Tower of Silence from the bay. The tower was an odd structure, a circular construction with 3 concentric rings, within which the Parsi dead were exposed to the air, as was the custom. It was altogether macabre, though I felt much the same about cemeteries, where the dead gently rotted in the earth. And in the shadow of the tower I saw the symbol of a copper lily on the door of a converted mansion. I approached and knocked on the door, and was given a cup of tea and a cushioned wicker chair almost as soon as I crossed the threshold of this outpost of the Artificers Guild. They were a varied group. Most were British or Indian, but I spotted a few Turks and Chinese. More than half were women, and all sat sipping tea together as equals and poring over periodicals. A middle-aged Sikh in a bright blue turban and admirably pressed trousers approached me. "What is it you require, traveler?" "I want to know the fastest way from here." Dharampo, the sick man, wrinkled his nose. "Not the train," he said. "The papers say it goes to Calcutta, but the line stops at Allahabad. There's no track between there and Calcutta." Okay, that's a cool reference to the novel. A bit of a foreshadowing, because they do board the train. Because the track lines have been finished through India, at least according to newspapers. But yeah, the line stops at Allahabad, and from there they have to take like an elephant through the jungle or something to actually make the way to Calcutta. So I guess that's actually a way for us to save time in comparison to the novel, where they lose time with the elephant jungle route. So we would be stranded if we went that way? Perhaps so, Dharampo replied cheerfully. I thanked the artificers profusely before taking my leave, though alas I was so distracted by my musings that I failed to notice 2 thuggish fellows with ill intent who cornered me in a side street and demanded my shoes. "Thank you for the lurker, Mita." "A man's shoes are his castle," I contended, which had the laudable effect of confusing them for a few moments while I attempted a discreet but ultimately fruitless escape. I returned to my master barefoot and rather shamefaced. "I hope that this will not happen again," said my master coldly. "That was to be the last word on Bombay, gateway to the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Except for... and what, pray, has happened to your shoes?" Okay, so let's explore. I walked the streets a while, discovering the possibilities for how we might make progress. Okay, hold on. First things first, let's have a look when we can depart to Calcutta. Departs... Wait, the railway? No. I thought there's a easier way. So maybe from Madras then. Parts at 1 PM. Yeah, maybe that's actually smarter if we get hung up there. The Bombay Express was a fine train, rivaling the Orient Express herself for comfort and luxury. Inside each softly lit compartment, Persian rugs and Venetian lamps threw color over fittings of teakwood and burnished brass. I only hoped it would run on time. Soft furnishings do not, as my master would say, power an engine. I went to explore The observation decks. Set with wicker chairs and parasols to better and more comfortably observe the countryside flashing past. And that was where I met Anne Marie Spencer, a girl of maybe 10 years, sketching the distant hills. I greeted her politely. As I took the spot beside her, she smiled and with deft movements adjusted the position of her weird chair to give me more room, dropping one of her pencils as she moved. I returned her with a bow, and she giggled. "You must be French," she declared. "You are gallant indeed." I admit I flushed, and turned my face rapidly away. "I knew it," she said. "I have a good eye. I see things as they are. That is why I draw." I looked over her pictures, to be confronted by their strangeness. I couldn't recognize anything of the landscape she was so closely watching in the lines and shapes that filled the page. "You have a most unusual style," I hatched. "Oh, monsieur," she said, "I have a good eye. I can see you are lying." "Then I do not need to say it," I replied. She nodded. "Charming," she replied. "I knew it." Just when my attention was distracted as my master beckoned me over to make ready his evening wear. I bid her farewell, and she nodded to me. "I will see you again, Monsieur Passepartout," she told me as I left her. I didn't stop to wonder that day how it was she knew my name. The next morning I discovered I had lost my passport. Passepartout has lost his passport, huh? I told Monsieur Fogg immediately, risking his displeasure at the possibility of delay, but in truth I think he was amused. Should I lose my passepartout, he replied, I would be most vexed. But yeah, so passepartout, the name is of course a play on the word passport. I decided to enlist the help of Anne Marie and her excellent eyes, so I tracked her down on the observation deck and explained the situation. She looked most concerned. What might happen to you without documents? At worst I will not be allowed to travel, I replied, and that would be most serious as my master's on a journey around the world. She nodded. Well then, we shall have to look, won't we? I think you should search the crew cabins with which my share cannot access, and I will look about here. It seemed a good plan, so I agreed. As I was heading from the car, I felt certain the girl would locate my papers, with a sharp eye and inquisitive mind. But went to search the crew cabins immediately. All the same. My break-in entering was numbered in moments, of course, by a cabin boy of only 7 or 8 years. I was not about to explain myself to a boy, so I called for the guard. The guard, a surly fellow with a mysterious moustache he was in the habit of waving around, sat me down and demanded the facts, which I provided. I visited the observation deck. Very wise, the views are most astounding. Go on. He waved at me to continue. I had it yesterday. Naturally, you boarded the train. He chewed his moustache and thought. I have searched my compartment. You would not be wasting my time if you had not, indeed. He shook his head. I regret I have only one theory. A young lady called Anne Marie Spencer. Come. I followed him. Together we marched to the observation deck, where we found the young mademoiselle idling away at her sketching. Young lady, the guard demanded. Stand up. Sir, I protested. Can you not see this poor girl? But my words trailed off as young crippled Anne-Marie got up from her wheelchair and then curtsied in front of me. I'm afraid I'm a dreadful kleptomaniac, she apologized, with deep insincerity. And an unparalleled liar to boot. My passport, please, I demanded with no small irritation. I dropped it, she replied, with an indifferent shrug. Somewhere. Tell me where. I insisted firmly. Then Anne-Marie sat down again, suddenly glum. You stopped being charming, she said morosely. Here's your passport. She reached into a fold of her dress and pulled out my papers, and the guard wheeled her away as I wiped my brow with relief. A long and most difficult delay had been avoided. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna be charming if it's about losing days. I didn't see the girl at all today. I think she was being kept within her quarters under some kind of observation. Suitable to her fragrant criminality. I occupied my time watching the scenery go by and relaxing. Even a valet must take time off. At Madras, they pushed the young girl from the train down a ramp, and she waved up at me before turning to face the road ahead. Under the weight of our cases, I couldn't wave back, and then she was gone. Who was that girl? My master asked. An unfortunate, I answered. It is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves, he replied, quoting Shakespeare. I think she will make her own destiny, monsieur, I said as we disembarked into Madras station. It is the stars who should watch out. Wow, yeah, that's self-natural purr here. Nice. Let's explore. Madras was a city within a city. Inside the walls and fortifications of Fort St. George was White Town, where British memsahibs and factors traded and went to church and traveled from place to place in mechanical palanquins. Outside the walls was the glorified shanty of Black Town, where Indian servants and laborers and clerks made their homes. I ventured into Black Town, where I attracted a few glances but no real attention. No doubt were many reasons for a lone foreigner to wander the crumpled streets and back alleys. But after a few minutes I realized I was being stalked. I turned to face my shadow, to find myself face to face with a nun. Would you like a blessing, good sir? An ornate gold cross hung heavily from her neck. Yes, sister. Her smile sprouted razors, and with no further warning, she brought a heavy gold cross down on my head with a crack. My vision sputtered and sparked into blackness. When I awoke, I was in a nunnery. My nun assailant offered me a cool cloth. I'm Sister Panimala, and this is the convent of the Sisters of Didacus. Oh, Jesus Christ, now I'm being abducted by religious folks. Why am I here? You are here because you're meant to be here, she said, portentously. My orders does not believe, as the Pope does, that automatons are abominations. We believe that machines too are capable of grace. All this theology while my head still span. I went briefly cross-eyed and fell over. The sister propped me back up. Please listen to me, she said. The Didacian sisters are dedicated to the search for a machine which has a soul, and now we require for your help in our search. You could have simply have asked.
You're trash.
Yes, these nuns are trash. Hello there, Mr. Godi. Welcome in, dude. The Lord doesn't ask, he expects. Now listen to me. She helped me woozily to my feet. If you find an automaton whose shard is engraved with a soul on your travels, send a telegram to us. We have our own receiving station here. We will reward you materially, if that is your wish. But we must have such a shard. As you say, sister. I agreed, wishing to make good my escape. I'll inform you at once. I have faith, the nun said calmly. Then she let me go. I didn't know what to make of Sister Panimala and her order of the artificer nuns then, and I do not know now. I admit I was glad to know we would be leaving Madras and its walls and fortifications and secrets. Nice, Mr. Godi, that's good to hear. Okay, so I want to go to Calcutta. Departs tomorrow at 6 PM. Let's negotiate here. Okay. Anything else at the marketplace here? I guess you could buy the China. He said, why not? We're about to go to Calcutta. It's gonna fill up the space. We made ourselves comfortable for the night, and I afforded my master every service, ensuring he had fresh tea with a dear wish he would have a comfortable night. It wasn't until the Western flower left the shore of India that I truly relaxed and was convinced the Sisters of Didacus were not going to bang me over the head once again. Here on the open water, I began to consider the strange mission and my part in it. Okay, Calcutta. You want to go to Victoria, Hong Kong. With a stopover in Singapore. We don't have any of those routes here. Ah ja, Calcutta, Hong Kong. Perfect. Board the SS Thunder. Okay, good. Yeah, that's the route we're going for here. The water was calm and crystal clear beneath our prow. I took a turn above the ship to familiarize myself with her and the other passengers. The Flower was a passenger liner, but one used by the middle classes and business people, traveling the coast and making trades between south and north. One such was Madame Sumati, a hard-nosed lady who proclaimed her profession to be a weaver, but by the sound of it managed a warehouse floor in which several hundred workers did her weaving for her. Do you not miss the feel of the threads under your own fingers? I asked wistfully. It is progress, she declared. And my profession now involves weaving by threads of people back and forth, to and fro, without them becoming tangled and messy. There's an art as much as in weaving. On the second day we reached the port of Voltaire. Madame Sumati disembarked, catching my arm as she stepped from the boat. "You're going all the way to Calcutta, are you not?" she asked. "If so, look up my husband there. Tell him he may return any time he chooses." With that, she stepped from the ship. "It seems you make friends wherever you go," Monsieur Fogg remarked to me wryly later that day. Let's ask about the journey.
High position, gerecht.
Ah yes, I can also increase his health like this. Okay. High precision, Gere. Okay, so we are at this point 15 days over the journey from the book. Yeah, I got to Calcutta in 23 days. Whatever little hearts in the bottom right corner, that's basically the health level for my master, Monsieur Fogg. And we have to keep that to 100 ideally. Basically on travels he will lose a bit of health and we can, you know, kind of like care for him and keep it, you know, to a higher level. I'm not overly certain what happens if it ever reaches 0. I don't think the playthrough would end, but maybe would have to like take a day of rest or something. But yeah, that's, since we're like a valet, kind of like have to make sure that our master is, you know, doing well. Yeah, let's better not find out, I would say. We made good time up the coast of India, enjoying the rolling of the waves and the glorious thick scents from the kitchens. It seemed it was traditional on board to hold a banquet for lunch on the final day. We enjoyed ourselves thoroughly and all but rode down the gangplank into Calcutta. Okay, so let's plan real quick. So that departs tomorrow at 9 AM. Perfect. So gonna have a look here. We can sell this for 690. Neck cushion. Cowboy boots. Or the American wardrobe. Okay, let's get that. It's also got the south of Arnica. Set of dominoes.
Knock, knock.
Sure, let's get the dominoes. Hello Varrod, welcome in. And welcome in Raiders. Thank you so much for the raid, Senny. And yeah, how's it going? How was the rest of Revelations and Old Ezio? I reckon you ended up finishing the playthrough today?
Hey, if you're looking for your balls, they're back in Blackwater.
Welcome back, Ava. Hello there, Oliver. Welcome in, dude. How are you doing? Hello there, Senny. How are you and the journey around the world in 80 days, in 80 streams? Yeah, 80 streams. Dude, that would be a long project. Double as long as a full completionist Valhalla playthrough. Pretty much. But yeah, it's going pretty good. We're super behind. So honestly don't think we're actually gonna make it in the 80 days. But hey, that's just more realistic, isn't it? Because making it in 80 days in 1872 would have actually been very tricky. But I'm trying to kind of recreate the route that they took in the novel, which has turned out to be quite difficult because some things are not possible, or some places are not possible to visit on the first playthrough. You would actually have to go through the game multiple times to unlock more locations. And also I learned that you can't board the same means of transport twice, like the same ship, for instance. So that has set us back a little bit. At this point, we're actually about 15 days behind the novel. So we're going a bit slowly. But we're having a good time though. I'm really enjoying the exploration aspect and, you know, getting to visit different cities and interacting with its people. I think they did a very good job making each location stand out from the other. And they're also not really leaning into like stereotypes, you know, for the people being displayed. They're not just based on their nationality. So I've been really enjoying yeah, the writing and, you know, planning ahead where to travel next. It's definitely exciting, you know, like making the progress of traveling. And at the same time, it's also intense in the way that, you know, time is constantly passing and you have to make decisions quite quickly. So yeah. Hello there, Seraph. Welcome in, dude. I have something to say to you.
You are utterly ridiculous.
Welcome back, Schiller. Knock, knock. Hello there, Barnes. Welcome in as well, dude. How are you doing? Rod going great, thanks. No worries for the raid. Absolutely, it's all done. We'll do a short stream late my time of AC3 to do Haven stuff. Oh, very nice. That's cool that you're gonna jump into AC3 as well. Getting started. Have you revealed yet what kind of playthrough are you doing with AC3? As a final goodbye to Ezio throwing money, you ended the stream with him throwing some money. Nice. That's a good send-off for sure, because that was definitely one of the more iconic things about the Ezio saga this time around. Not sure if you've seen it yet, but in Black Flag Remake you will also be able to throw money. That's really the most important point, isn't it? In any AC game, being able to throw money. In case anyone hasn't checked out Rod channel yet, I would highly recommend
Late Rod Raid.
having a look at the link in chat. He's currently playing through the Assassin's Creed series. It's something he does every year. And he also does a different approach or like focus every time as well. Sometimes focusing on highlighting the music, other times focusing on having gameplay related challenges. This time with Revelations he did an old Ezio approach. So according with the aging process of Ezio, he wasn't allowed to, you know, run like constantly. You know, his stamina was quite a bit lower. And instead, I guess he was tired of running and just ended up killing everyone who came at him. So a bit bloodthirsty. At least once conflict arises. Not as yet, but you mentioned a secret rule you had for Revelations, and it's that rule which will be part of AC3 as well. Gotcha. Gotcha. Also, hello there, Lucinda. Welcome in. Thank you for the 56 months of resubbing. And happy weekend to you. I hope you're having a good one so far. That's what the new games need to bring back. Cheers for the shoutout. No worries whatsoever for the shoutout. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely nice to have, you know, the resync version of Black Flag as a testament to what people might want in a new AC game, which is the old AC. You know? Like, obviously that's something people have been asking for a long time. And things like Mirage have been, you know, like, of course, trying to achieve that, but yeah, maybe it's a sign towards Ubisoft, you know, that people just want to have, you know, a classic AC experience again. That being said, I guess Black Flag was still not, you know, a super classic AC experience, but at least, you know, part of the, you know, core series, I guess. And what's also good is that crowd blending is back as well. So you can just step in a crowd of like 3 people or so and then blend, and that's something I never understood why Valhalla didn't do, because Valhalla had the like reintroduction of social stealth, but was very limited, I guess. But yeah, that's definitely something I hope being in Black Flag means that it will also return in like other AC games going forward. Hopefully. Hello there, Doppeldoor. Welcome in. And good day. Good morning, Spectrum. Welcome in as well. And yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Spectrum? Very nice, Lucinda. That's good to hear. Yeah, spending some time for Mother's Day, is it? Yeah, exactly. At least that's what I'm hoping, you know, that the advancements they're making for Black Flag will have an influence on, you know, other entries maybe. Need coffee? Understandable. I definitely needed my coffee as well this morning because our dog was like at 7 AM being like, okay, how about some action? How about we just wake up super early today on a Saturday and, you know, just have a party. And yeah, we went to bed pretty late, so didn't get too much sleep. But hey, coffee definitely helps. Your brother was in town from out of state and your Mother's Day is tomorrow? Yeah. That's nice. Definitely hope you have a good time with your family this weekend. Okay, so we just arrived in Calcutta. So we're making our way through India here. And soon we're gonna disembark for Singapore and then Hong Kong. So that's the next routes I'm planning here. I'm basically trying to recreate the route we're taking in the novel. But it's been a bit difficult in the game to actually do that. So, yeah, we've been losing a bit of time. I actually arrived in Calcutta on the day 23. And I'm on day 39, so you can tell how fast we're going. Calcutta was an industrial city which had built its wealth on opium, textiles and indigo, but that wasn't to say it was uncultured. The chai shops which I passed by were all thronged with affluent babbers and Bahenjis discussing poetry and literature and the sticky subject of Indian independence. It seemed there was discontent brewing in several places, and I wondered if we would be able to avoid all consequences of it. Do you think there will be trouble soon? I asked. Several voices agreed, but then several disagreed. It seemed there was no clear answer to be had here either. Only time would tell. I returned quickly to Monsieur Fogg. Okay, so I have to have a look when we have to depart here. At 9 AM, so I already have to plan. Yes, let's do it. The SS founder of the Upcar shipping line had 10 years previously set the record for the fastest journey between Singapore and Hong Kong, and her captain promised us a journey of 10 days rather than the usual figure of 12. Nice. Well, let's see what happens. No worries, Rod, take your time. Alright, we're halfway through the time. I took a turn around the deck, interested in who else I might find aboard. There were a few passengers on the ship, and that handful were nervy Indian laborers bound for Malaya or Singapore. The ship was crewed by Lascars, a mix of Indian, Singaporeans, Chinese and Malay, who all spoke an entirely incomprehensible sailor's dialect which I found utterly fascinating. I endeavored to pick up as many words of the odd patois as I could on our voyage. Early on the first day we stopped at the port of Chittagong to take on more passengers. Then the captain blew the whistle loud and long. Full speed, he declared. You will see. Hello there, Afro, welcome in. Yeah, we won't have to suffer icebergs in this part of the sea. We dined at the captain's table. He made his toast and then asked Monsieur Fogg outright whether he was an opium trader, and I his factotum. I looked at my master, who merely said he was not. Captain Ong Guwav fought and commanded our glasses filled once more. It is a profitable business, he advised. A man can make his fortune in opium if, and he addressed the last to my master, he is not squeamish. Morals are not squeamishness, I replied coldly. The opium trade profits through addiction and exploitation. Men and women choose to become addicted, Captain Ong disagreed calmly. I believe in freedom. The people of China are not children, but we need to mind them like an over-anxious parent. Monsieur Fogg gave me a quelling look before turning to the captain. Your business is your own, Captain Ong, as long as you conduct me to Hong Kong in 10 days as agreed. The captain raised a glass. Fear not, Mr. Fogg. I have anxious customers awaiting my cargo after all. Okay, let's begin conversation about Hong Kong. So we want to go to Yokohama from Hong Kong, which we don't get here yet. Does the Seine ever flood? Does it? Maybe? I don't know. Damn, we can actually talk quite a bit with her. But yeah, she doesn't tell us anything about Yokohama. Hello there, Pavlokas. Welcome in. And good day to you. I awoke thinking of croissant. Ah yeah, typical French. You wake up in the middle of the night and you just think of croissants. Also, give me just 1 second. Okay, so I awoke thinking of croissants. Not just any croissants, my friends, but the croissants made on the corner of a street where I grew up. Delicately crisp on the outside, yielding within. I could smell them, almost hear the texture of a pastry on my tongue. I was so in contemplation that I was very nearly late to attend my master's shave. Zoo alors. Now I want to have a croissant myself. The Lascars who made up the crew seemed to find me an object of great curiosity. I found them curious in return. My attempts to learn a few of the words of a coupled together tongue were met with howls of good-natured laughter. A young Malay shyly asked me what Paris was like. It is beautiful, I said cautiously. The Seine glitters like a snake. The theaters bow light and color onto the streets. The cafes are full of men and women debating and drinking endless cups of coffee. There are beautiful women and beggars all on the same street. She looked at me curiously. I took a deep breath, dissatisfied with my answer. Never mind my thoughts. Perhaps you will see it yourself one day. She nodded, accepting my answer. I doubted she would ever set foot in the city of my birth. Maybe he knows something about Yokohama. They say that Yokohama can be reached from Hong Kong by the Jade Tiger and a jeep. Nice. Yeah, tell me more about Yokohama. Did you know some buyers will pay well for tobacco from Yokohama? Now tell me, how do you deal with nose hair? Burn. I would try your suggestion. Well, I hope you don't you know, how do you say? I forgot the English word for being enttäuscht. Never mind. Disappointed, I guess. Okay, so from Yokohama, I wanna go from Yokohama to San Francisco, basically. Today we stopped at Singapore, on the southernmost tip of the Malay Peninsula. Singapore had been British for many decades, and from the harbour it seemed almost as if some little town in Kent or Surrey had been shipped piece by piece and reconstructed on this far shore. We exchanged some labourers for a dozen or so merchants. It made sail by early afternoon. The captain was on the deck in the afternoon as it took a turn. He seemed to hesitate for a moment before he approached, and abruptly said, "My brother is an opium addict." "Your brother?" He looked around to make sure we were not overheard before nodding. "My family is from Shanghai. We were poor, but instead of relieving my parents' cares, my older brother became an opium eater who lied and stole and wasted his days." How old were you? He seemed surprised at my question. "I was 10 when he began." He shook his head. "I left Shanghai at 15. I ended up in Singapore with nothing to my name but a shirt, and look at where I am now. My parents live well on the money I sent them." "What of your brother?" A look of fleeting sadness crossed his face before it hardened over. "I do not know. Dead, probably, if not begging on the streets." He took a shaky breath. "I haven't talked of this for many years, but I wanted to tell you this, monsieur. Things are not so simple as you seem to think." Captain Ong bowed stiffly, and my thoughts flickered between the captain's story and the chest of opium, even now in the cargo hold. We had a squall today and we were confined to our cabins. I could hear the sailors shout to each other outside of the ship, pitch from side to side. Monsieur Fogg, in an uncharacteristic display of humanity, was noisily sick into a nearby bucket. I mopped his brow, an act which he clearly deemed overfamiliar even in his compromised position. "I'm sorry, Mr. Fogg." Okay. One of the Indian laborers was lying limp in the corridor outside our cabin. "Hello?" I asked doubtfully, and he moaned. He looked feverish, clammy and rather warm to the touch. I called one of the crew to attend him and watched as he was shouldered away to his cabin. The steward, a wizened Indian of indeterminate weather-beaten years, clapped me on the shoulder as thanks, and his disjointed tongue promised to care for him. Or at least, so I assumed. Yeah, we already talked to her. The old laborer was walking in slow circles above the deck when I came up. He looked over as I walked past. And I greeted him with a wave.
Das ist zu Deutsch Scheiße.
$555,555. Thank you for summoning the German Dr. Darling. And also, welcome Index. Welcome back. I was to take up a job at an up-car warehouse in Hong Kong, but now they think I will not be able to work well. I have no job because of you. He turned away and I fled the deck rather unceremoniously. We reached our destination in the promised 10 days. Quite a miracle, and one that Captain Ong was clearly proud of. We shook our hands with great gusto as we disembarked, his eyes dancing. Good luck, he called, as I looked around the crowded, colorful harbor of Hong Kong. Okay, let's plan. This departs in 2 days. Okay, so we have a bit of time here. Let's negotiate wohl. Okay, that way departs tomorrow. But when? $9 AM. Okay. Can I sell anything here? Able here, yes. A rifle. Ah, there's also worth something here. Good. You should have just said 5. It would have been easier, that's for sure. But yeah, if it's like a lot of 5s and I have no idea anymore how to say it, I'm just gonna say that. Just repeat 5 over and over again. I was perusing a market store in Hong Kong when I was greeted by the familiar quivering moustache of Monsieur Fix. "What are you doing here of all places, monsieur?" I exclaimed. He offered me a drink, and given that I had a few hours to spare, I had to lie shamelessly to escape him. "We're leaving immediately," I declared. "There's no time to waste." "Is that so?" he replied with great interest. "And where are you going?" "It is my master's decision," I replied cagily. Fix nodded. Of course, of course. Well, perhaps we will see each other again." I agreed that I hoped so and scurried away, although I fancied that I saw his darling form out of the corner of my eye more than once since then. So that's the British agent who's been sent to arrest us. Or arrest our master, I guess, for supposedly having stolen from the Bank of England. And the description of a thief matches the one of our master. Wandering the streets, who should I bump into but Monsieur Fix? His sly eyes narrowed. "Now, I thought you were leaving," he queried. An unaccountable delay. Well, I mean, I'm leaving. Like, I'm leaving in a few hours. "Oh, I quite understand. But if you want to leave quickly, I know a way. Come." And he indicated the doorway. "I will share it with you." No, fuck off. I shook my head. "I regret I cannot." Fix nodded, his expression shadowed. You are a busy man, I understand. Well, be sure to take good care of yourself and your master. With that, he slipped away. The Jade Tiger was an Haute Mouche-class Persian airship, renovated with Chinese colors and fittings. It was painted all over with Manchu-like symbols, swastiks, stylized bats and coins. We climbed aboard, ready for the journey east. Captain Hisu wore a traditional Manchu pau in blue cotton, bone hairpins in her fan-shaped hair, and a jade thumb ring. I bowed low in courtly greeting. She looked at me quizzically and then asked a series of questions in Chinese. I didn't know enough of a language to identify a particular variant. An English-speaking crew member was summoned. Oh, whoops. Her two-boat hung with rope, boat cutters and climbing equipment. The captain says she expects you to speak Cantonese. She translated, because you were in Hong Kong. I was only briefly in Hong Kong, I sighed. I didn't have much time to practice my languages. The crew members ratted her boat cutters at me. The captain speaks Cantonese, Mandarin, 3 dialects of Manchu, Russian and Arabic. Are any of those known to you? I'm afraid not, I conceded. The captain, for all her delicately arranged hair and grace, looked thoroughly exasperated and stalked off in a huff. The crew member chuckled and stuck her hand out at me. Song Xiuying, looks like I'll be looking after you and your master this trip. Madame Song? I ventured. Song Yuying shuddered. Song Yuying's fine, try not to mango it too much. Eh, passepartout. The pronunciation was of course flawless. Merde. Monsieur Fogg took exception to the moth-eaten red silk drapings which adorned our cabin, and asked me to take them down for the duration of the voyage. Is it a condition that you cannot bear? I asked. Doesn't matter, he replied with perfect equanimity. Only the man has the right to know why he does things, I muttered under my breath, though I'm certain he heard. Song Xiuying looked, rather I think, insulted, when she came to fetch us for dinner and saw the bare-walled room. My master has very particular taste, I explained. How nice for him to have the luxury of taste. We dined in the captain's quarters, accompanied by Song Xiuying. A Siberian tiger skin rug sprawled across the floor. A note of sybaritic indulgence in an otherwise plainly decorated room. The captain shot it herself. Song Xiuying remarked, miming an arrow shot. She loves archery almost as much as she loves the Jade Tiger. 1 second. Alright. Where did she learn it? Therein lies the tell. The crew member smiled with relish. The captain's father was too old and weak to join the army, and so Captain Hizu put on the clothing of a boy and rode out to take his place. How daring of her, I gasped. It was a grave risk, but she served for 12 years and gained so much honor that when she was discovered, the generals gifted her with an airship and forgave her deception. Is that not the plot of a famous Chinese folktale? I raised an eyebrow. The story of Mulan? Song Qiuying's eyes widened. You know the story, she said flatly, and then shrugged. You're not so ignorant as you seem. The most stimulating dinner at the captain's table, all told. We tapered at Yokohama in the early afternoon. My eyes passed lightly over the slope-roofed buildings, carriages, and bare cherry trees. I made a particular effort to thank Song Qiuying for an entertaining journey. For she had been an excellent, if fanciful, translator, and had taught me a little Mandarin after hours and below decks. Think nothing of it, she advised, shaking my hand with a careless one. Good luck. Ready, Passepartout? My master called. Of course, monsieur. I replied eagerly, and followed him onto Japanese soil. Okay, let's start by exploring. It was hard to believe that Yokohama had only relatively recently opened to foreigners. There was an entire foreigners district not far from the waterfront, but was as common to hear Chinese or Russian as Japanese. There were several varieties of English to choose from as well, though Monsieur Fogg would have barely deigned to include the nasal tongue of the American merchants. I noticed a Japanese man watching, the scene with a look of intense concentration and scribbling in a sketchbook. I leaned in for a look. He was drawing a stylized picture of the foreign quarters with quick pen strokes, which stopped abruptly as my shadow fell over the drawing. He looked up, clearly irritated. "Do you mind?" he said, his accent an unholy mix of Dutch, French, and English. "I'm making a drawing for a woodcut." He was clearly a temperamental sort, so I left him to his work with a polite smile. I do not think he liked foreigners, from his drawing of them. Okay, so wanna make our way to San Francisco, of course. The parts in 2 days cost 4,000. We can negotiate here. A further 4,000? Jesus Christ. For 1 day more? That's too expensive, sorry. That's like most of the money I have. Anything I can sell here? Label here. Clearly need a wrench. I mean, you never know when that might be helpful. Maybe there's something to fix or something to hit. With what remained of the day, I went out to explore a little and spoke to a nervous French master who was searching for a dog, which I found near a clockmaker's. The master thanked me, and as we talked, remarked that you could pick up magnifying glasses in Pyongyang you can sell for profit in Singapore. I assured him we were unlikely to head that way, to which he laughed. I never wanted to leave my mama, but now here I am. Yeah, but Singapore is literally where we came from, so I'm not gonna return at this point. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait a day. It's just way too expensive. As night fell, I spent a while talking to the hotelier to learn what I could, learning that you could pick up a handheld mirror in Pyongyang, extremely valuable in San Pedro. A most interesting snippet. The Water Lily was a sleek iron-hulled ship, two-submarine prototype captained by a severe American by the name of Wicker, who wore a top hat at all times and preferred tea to coffee, which greatly endeared him to Monsieur Fogg. In addition to the usual compliment, the Water Lily carried an entire corps of brass-goggled engineers and a brace of submariners on standby, should the captain call the order to submerge. The rumor was that she had been a slave ship and had only been refitted for passenger transport a good few years after Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. But I saw no trace of a dark past aboard. The crew seemed a happy family and welcomed us into the iron-hulled bosom. Our cabin, while hardly spacious, was adequate to our needs. One of the midshipmen came by to show us how to use the pressure seals in case of submersion, but in all other aspects I looked forward to a peaceful steamship ocean crossing. I was not to be so lucky. Okay, what about San Francisco? They say that San Francisco is one of the most advanced American cities. Well, we want to make our way from San Francisco to New York per train. So maybe, I'm not sure, Salt Lake City? Is a Mormon colony where polygamy is the norm. Oh yeah. Okay. Nothing about New York. The salty air blew cool and sharp against my face as I opened the door onto the top deck. It was painfully early and the only passenger awake were a group of Chinese laborers hunched miserably near the stern. One of the number was vomiting copiously into a bucket. I offered him my own secret remedy, which I had brewed up for just such an occasion. He swallowed it down with a certain dubious desperation, but immediately improved in both complexion and temperament. He thanked me most profusely. Xi. I said, using one of a few Mandarin expressions I had picked up in my travels. I laughed uproariously at my pronunciation, but seemed altogether pleased by my attempts to render things in their tongue. I accompanied Monsieur Fogg to a game of whist with a family of American missionaries who were traveling back to San Francisco for a family wedding. My master began strongly, but Mademoiselle Loretta, the eldest girl, had a sharp eye and won several hands in a row. A new round was dealt. I noticed Mademoiselle Loretta slip a card into her sleeve. I blinked twice in pure astonishment and glanced up to her face, which was utterly calm, betraying nothing of the action of her nimble fingers. The minister's daughter was a cheat, and a skilled one at that. I filed away the knowledge, for an opportune moment catching her eye to convey that I had noticed her little sleight of hand. She blushed with all the manufactured prettiness of an accomplished actress, then raised one eyebrow in silent challenge. Our journey continued on. Secret remedy, I know what the secret is. Redacted. It's a remedy against a scratchy throat. A redacted throat. I spent a day in the company of the water lily submariners. They were all hardy men and women who preferred the dim, enclosed spaces of the hold to the top deck. Too much sky, one of them said, squinting suspiciously. Her crewmate nodded. All that fresh air, they shuddered collectively, and suggested a bracing race to the boiler room. I offered an alternative. Having no great desire to sprint through the ill-lit, echoing ship's corridors. The commander, a short Japanese-American woman, gave me a look of scorn. What do you suggest? I demanded a test of acrobatic skill. Though the submariners were all fit as horses, they had never attempted to, for instance, form a pyramid or walk the length of a corridor on their hands. They competed with me gamely, but admitted themselves outclassed. Commander Davis even applauded. "It's a zumi to my friend," she said, clapping me heavily on the shoulder as I took my leave. "You're not so bad." Whist is the game that Jacob Fry mentions in AC Syndicate. Ah, right. Right, I remember. I totally forgot about that being a thing though. I'm just glad we don't have to play it in Syndicate as like part of an achievement or something. Like in AC3. Okay, can you tell me anything about New York? I guess not. Okay. Me neither, no. I don't think I've ever played a game of whist, to be honest. But yeah, those kind of like mini games, like tabletop and card games, not my favorite thing to do in an AC game, I guess. I don't mind it being like optional, but yeah, if it's like part of an achievement, then I kinda loathe it most of the time. might actually make it in leeches. In leeches than 80 days? Yes. With the power of leeches, we're gonna make it. Yeah, not too sure, to be honest. I mean, we're on day 58. We're on the journey to San Francisco. Let me quickly add together the days of a novel. Oh, you know what? I guess it depends how long we're actually taking for this journey here. But we're arriving in San Francisco on day 68, I think. Or is it 64? But either way, like, we're definitely in a position now to maybe catch up a little bit. But it depends, I'm not too sure how much of a journey is left here. Because this is by far the longest part of a journey across the Pacific. Gwent is where it's at. Yeah, Gwent is definitely my favorite, well, I guess you can't even call it minigame anymore, given how expansive it is. But yeah, it's a great distraction in that game. I was climbing the rigging as an exercise, of course. And not at all for the purpose of spying on the crew to appease my own rapacious curiosity, when I heard two of the crewmen arguing in a pidgin mix of English and Japanese. I closed my eyes and listened to their voices. Only a few words were audible over the howling of the wind. Shrine, heaven, worship, before a sudden scream rent the air. One of the sailors was falling from the platform's edge. I was unable to look away as he fell. His body lay still and crumpled onto the deck, but I heard a scream in my head for days after. I looked up and managed to catch sight of a fallen sailor's companion, his face still and pallid. Was it guilt in his eyes, or merely shock? He slipped away before the captain arrived, and I followed him. He retired to the crew quarters, and I began to hear the sound of desperate, muttered prayers. Jesus. Why can no one tell me about New York? Damn it. Just like one way to get to New York, please. Okay. I guess not. The Water Lily's crew held a funeral for the dead sailor. I was not specifically invited, but felt a sense of responsibility, having witnessed the man's fatal plunge. Captain Wicker led the Christian service with customary grimness. I was surprised by the absence of the sailor's companion, who had been arguing with him just before his fall. Yet he was not the only one missing from the funeral. Oddly, only half the crew had come to pay their respects. I asked my neighbor about this breach of custom, and she narrowed her eyes. Joseph was a convert, she told me defiantly. The captain taught him to read the Bible himself. The rest of the crew are heathens. They stay away from our godly ceremonies. Dude, why is like no one telling me anything about New York? Not like this. Storm. Too exhausted to write a proper entry. Suffice to say, we're still afloat. As we settled down for the night, I was struck by an unrelated thought. Monsieur Fogg, the dateline. I've ordered our watch already, Monsieur Fogg replied calmly. Did you think I might forget? My master was of course correct. With an eye such as his, it was unthinkable that he might miss such a detail. We had reached the point directly opposite Greenwich, where the hours we had lost in traveling around the Earth were added back. A whole extra day. So instead of that being like a twist at the end of a journey, it's something very real, you know, in this part already. But yeah, that's how we save the day. Yesterday's storm hit us with a little warning. One moment I was mending one of my shirts with careful stitches. The next we were being tossed from one end of the cabin to the other. We were only lucky that the bed was securely nailed to the door. Rain clattered against our iron hull, nearly drowning out the shouts of the crew. The storm lasted nearly 6 hours and blew us far off a course. The captain spent most of the day peering at his charts, trying to locate our position. There's no land anywhere upon the horizon. Day 60, Monsieur Fogg murmured at night in his sleep, and still some distance yet to travel. Great. She wants any Frenchman. Good to know. The captain announced a change of destination. The Water Lily would now make for nearby Hawaii. Oh, Jesus Christ, really? You can't do this to me, game. You can't do this to me. I'm like literally trying to follow the freaking novel, and they're like, well, you're going to Hawaii. It's like, no, my whole plan. Monsieur Fogg's lips pressed ever so slightly together. A rare outward sign of entirely understandable annoyance. This, my master said, will not do. Indeed not, sir. I agreed, not even daring to calculate the delay and expense our unexpected diversion would cause. Monsieur Fogg gave me a cool, appraising glance. Captain Wicker has reneged upon his word as a gentleman, he said curtly before lowering his voice to an almost furtive undertone. Our course is clear, we must mutiny. I opened my mouth to agree. That's right, Dr. Darling, just like travel back and, you know, we still make it back to England. We didn't circumnavigate the Earth, but, I mean, that's not important, is it? But he continued on with without so much as a pause. See to it, Passepartout. Use your natural charm? Quite, he said, with the agreeableness of a gentleman who had just given his valet a near Herculean task. We will mutiny in 5 days. When we reach Honolulu, make your preparations as you see fit. My task was clear. I was to foment mutiny aboard the Water Lily. I decided to begin by exploiting the crew's animosity towards one another. Divide and conquer, or so dear Mama always counseled. Gossip and rumor would be a good way to start, I thought, though such subtleties might also be lost on a crew of sailors. So I decided to gossip about the captain, planning to forcibly convert all the Shinto crew when we reached port. Some of the younger members seemed alarmed, but others merely laughed at the possibility. It was with satisfaction that I noted a certain increase in tension aboard the Water Lily, a situation I would carefully have to exacerbate if my master's mutiny was to have any chance of success. Next, I attempted to ingratiate myself with Chinese laborers, who were still rather storm-tossed and discombobulated. I managed to convince them to play dice with me and proceeded to impress them with my skill, managing to win 20 pounds of the process. This, however, did not endear me to them in the least. Yes, I should have lost. Yeah, not too sure this is going too well. Ah, dear. Would have been too easy if I could have just traveled to San Francisco, right? I had attempted to suborn the obvious targets aboard the Water Lily, but wars were often won by the unexpected. With that in mind, I turned my attention upon the ship's artificer, a tall, rather imposing woman in a short jacket embroidered with a gild's copper lily. Artificers were notoriously neutral in the matter of conflict or civil disruption, but I appealed to her vanity, offering to restyle her rather fusty robes into something more au courant. She regarded my own outfit critically for a few moments before her narrow face blossomed into a surprisingly sweet, if toothy, smile. You seem like a man with a good eye, she admitted. I've always wanted to be fashionable. I promised her that she would be the toast of any top deck she cared to walk upon, and had to hope that her gratitude would translate to more direct aid in my revolutionary plans. Gosh, this is taking so much freaking time. I spent the day putting the last finishing touches to my planned mutiny. It was a matter as delicate and serious as the creation of a soufflé by a master chef. I spread word of my signal amongst my allies, and retire to bed early. One could not mutiny on a bad night's sleep after all. We reached Honolulu in the dark. The captain took a small skiff into the harbor with a few of his officers, wishing to inquire about repairs before putting the Water Lily into dry dock. Monsieur Fogg watched the boat for a long moment. Now is the time, he said crisply. I trust everything is in order? I voiced my doubts about the readiness of the crew to mutiny, which caused Monsieur Fogg to almost heave a sigh. Let us hope that you are, in this case, mistaken. With that, my master retreated to his cabin, and I caught the signal to arms. The Water Lily erupted into chaos. Everywhere was the clash of sabers and pistols. Now and then I heard the shriek of the officer's sonic weapons. But I wasn't alone. The half of the crew that followed the Shinto creed fell in behind me, lit with a desire to teach their Christian crewmates a lesson rather than mutiny, but their anger helped stoke the fires of rebellion. The Chinese laborers rewarded my friendship with steadfast loyalty, throwing themselves into mutiny with all the desperation of men and women who utterly loathed sea travel, and longed to revenge themselves upon their instrument of torment in any fashion. They lit fires and tore up the already ragged sails, causing some welcome chaos. The submariners, led by Commander Davis, emerged quietly. It was a long, terrible moment when I wondered at their allegiance. Then Commander Davis caught my eye and nodded. We know when it is time for change, she shouted, driving back any straggler loyal to Captain Wicker. I saw Mademoiselle Loretta trip up one of the loyal officers out of the corner of my eye. She tipped her bonnet in my direction, a gesture of respect from one player of the game to another. The whir of the battle took me away, but not before I saw her falsify a magnificent feint and block the gangway to the navigation room. Well, I guess I did some things right at least. Like not calling out Loretta when she cheated meant that she was eager to repay the debt, I guess, of me being quiet about it. By noon it was clear that all of our efforts were for naught. However, the mutiny did not have the support in numbers, never mind, required to defeat those who had maintained their loyalty. Great. Captain Wicker and the other officers returned just in time to smother the last flames of rebellion. My master and I begged to be allowed to remain on board, but the captain laughed. I may be a gentleman, he declared, but I'm not a fool. It was only due to Captain Wicker's good grace that we retained our luggage. Our mutinous comrades were not treated with such leniency and were thrown unceremoniously below. That was, Monsieur Fogg said with icy precision as we stood up on the strand of a volcanic island on which we found ourselves, rather badly done. I splashed him accidentally with seawater, drenching his jacket and even managing to catch the brim of his hat. A momentary lapse, my friends. I can only blame the tension and difficulty of the previous days. If you are quite finished, Monsieur Fogg wrung out his jacket, ignoring my half-hearted apologies. We have much to do. Okay, I think at this point it's pretty clear we're not gonna make it in under 80 days.
You are a coward!
We would have to be in San Francisco by day 64, it's day 66, and we haven't even made it to San Francisco. Seawater on me? Not like this. Not for a gentleman. parts in 2 days. Well, let's negotiate, I guess. At 9 AM, okay. It was as though Honolulu lived in one indrawn breath. A willing swath of sky, white lace waves, and pristine sand bounded by black volcanic bluffs. The town was entirely hidden behind groves of coconut and eucalyptus. We took a short tour. Yilok said our coach driver, Hila Hila, like city folk. I was born in Paris, I nodded. My first breath was of her smoke and perfume. So you are like the great and sleepless city of Paris, always in a rush. He murmured something to his horse, which looked well fed and high-spirited. As a young man I went to San Francisco to make my fortune. I too ran and scrabbled in pursuit of the almighty dollar. We're not pursuing wealth, monsieur, I corrected. Though indeed Monsieur Fogg's fortune hung in the balance of his wager. Was our entire adventure merely a glorified pursuit of coin? Our adventure thus far had been somewhat harum-scarum. Barely had we placed our toes on dry land. Then we were looking to depart. Oh, I had seen so many wonders, and yet each had been ultimately reduced to another mark in my master's ledger. Do you not wish the freedom to excel, Passepartout? The coach driver asked. To stop running and simply feel the wind upon your face, and the sun warming you and the sound of the ocean like a heartbeat? I would take my moments where I may. Hila Hila, I agreed. There's a peace here. A harmony between land and sea and sky which touches my soul. The coach driver sighed and turned his face up to the endless sky. A man may find himself here, he told me, but only if he wishes it. He invited us to his home at evening and fed us dough-like poi and bright-fleshed slices of orange and guava. And I thought for once about peace and purpose. Instead of a distance yet to travel, my own purpose remained undimmed, but Honolulu was a pause, a moment pulled free of the past and future, and containing only the taste of guava and salt-freshened wind. We finished our night in Honolulu with a souvenir, a swirling conch shell collected from the beach as we walked back to our lodgings. Banana boat. We boarded a steam barge from Honolulu to San Francisco. The scent of ripe bananas pervaded every plank of decking and bulkhead, a sweet and deliciously rotting odor which I rather became accustomed to on the voyage, much to the detriment of my keen sense of smell. I huffed, attempting to convince my mouth that I ate fried kippers and potatoes at breakfast. Everything smells of bananas. Monsieur Fogg replied that he couldn't smell a thing, which I took to be his queerly English sense of humor at work. Still, I managed to finish my breakfast with my nose pinched shut. I had to keep up my strength for all of his valeting after all. I woke in the middle of the night, convinced that someone was in the cabin with me. I stayed very still and listened. There was a long, wave-lapped silence until I heard distinctively a dragging shuffle. I opened my eyes and looked up. My heart beating impossibly loud in my chest. In the darkness, I saw the sheen of a pair of eyes glazing vacantly into the distance. "Monsieur Fogg," I cried, and my midnight visitor blinked and straightened and looked about my cabin in genteel surprise. "What?" he said calmly, putting his dressing gown close. "Am I doing in your cabin, Passepartout?" "Scaring me half to death," I cried, rather upturned by his sudden appearance. He took a sharp breath. "It seems I have been sleepwalking," he said, his voice almost tremulous. "I have not done so since I was a child. Please accept my apologies." Would you like to stay for a while?" I asked, sensing his agitation. "I'm awake after all." He hesitated for a long moment. "I would like that, thank you." Captain Kalani was a heavily pregnant Hawaiian woman who found Monsieur Fogg's English accent a source of great mirth. "Say something else," she demanded over breakfast. "Please, Mr. Fogg." I let her amuse herself at my master's expense and looked on as she took him through an entire phrase book of small talk as she consumed a heaping plateful of raw fish and pineapple with horrible relish. Monsieur Fogg gave me a beseeching look once or twice. But I merely smiled back at him in return. A banana boat, indeed. That's the only way to travel to San Francisco, isn't it? I awoke to frantic knocking at my door and opened it to find Monsieur Fogg actually wringing his hands. "Passepartout," he said, his breath hitching. "Come quickly." "What is wrong, monsieur?" I cried, certain that something truly unspeakable was afoot, and I wasn't wrong. My master opened the doors to his cabin to reveal Captain Kalani, red-faced and moaning upon his bed. She turned her baleful gaze in our direction. "I'm having my baby early," she hissed, sweat upon her upper lip. "You must help me." What should I do? I had intended to ask a question, but it came out more like a shout. "Will one of you hold my bloody hand and the other fetch some blasted water?" she retorted. I glanced at Monsieur Fogg, who said, "I will fetch the water," and left me to hold Captain Kalani's hand. "Are you in much pain?" I asked inanely. She gave me a look so full of venom that I felt a sudden sweat prickling my brow. Then she moaned aloud. Monsieur Fogg returned with a bucket of water, but our respite was short-lived. Captain Kalani parted her knees. "One of you," she said, authoritatively, "must catch the baby." We did it together. Monsieur Fogg did not trust me not to drop it, and I didn't trust Monsieur Fogg not to faint clean away. After an infinitely long, infinitely terrifying interval, which I have not the means to describe, I held a small, squatting red-faced baby in my arms. I took off my own jacket and wiped the birth fluids from the baby's face, calling it a worthwhile loss. Then I gave it to her. "It is a girl," I said into the sudden hush. Captain Kalani was sweaty and wild-eyed and utterly exhausted. She held the baby to her chest as though it were an infinitely precious thing. She began to sing to her little girl a song of whales and ocean waves and airships that hung like moons in the sky. You know, just everyday things happening on journeys. Captain Kalani's indisposition the previous day did not delay us in the least. She had a well-trained and loyal crew who seemed to have collectively adopted her little girl as one of their own. I will call her John, Captain Kalani told us as we tethered at San Francisco. You are excellent midwives. I was overcome and ducked my head like a boy from the countryside. The name suits her, madame, I said. She will wear it better than I have. I turned towards San Francisco Bay with renewed hope after all. Whatever challenges it offered could scarcely be more taxing than those we had just overcome. Alright, and we finally made it to San Francisco. I ideally want to go to New York straight away, but we don't have the option yet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna explore first. I was kind of hoping for a route to New York to open. That's fine. Because this is gonna be everything I will be doing for 80 days today. I reckon we could probably finish this in the next 1.5 hours or so. But honestly, I don't want to do like 4 hours of straight up reading. Because it gets tiring after a while. So I'm gonna go and take a break here from the game, and then I'm just gonna finish it in the next stream of this. Who knows, maybe I'm even doing like a short stream tomorrow evening just to get the game done, because I'm gonna be quite busy again next week, so I won't be having too much time to stream during the week. But yeah, maybe I get to finish this tomorrow, because yeah, I don't think it's gonna take more than like 2 hours max, I think, to get the rest of the game finished here. At this point, we just have to travel through America and then, you know, take the ship to England, pretty much. No worries for the stream, Rod. Thank you for being here, and thanks again for the raid. Totally understandable, yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't mind doing a decent amount of reading, but this game, of course, is like 99% reading. So, yeah, after like 2 hours or so, it does get a bit tiring. But, yeah. Looking forward to get this game done, but I think we can safely assume now that we're not gonna make it in under 80 days. We're already on day number 71, is it? Yes. And we won't be able to leave before day 72. And yeah, you know, 8 days to get from San Francisco to London, that's not gonna happen. But that's fine, though. Not so fine for Monsieur Fogg, because he's gonna lose all that money from the wager, but hey, we still have a journey. But yeah, let's go ahead and exit. Oh, by the way, Rod, were you like planning to go live anytime soon? Because you mentioned you were gonna stream some more AC3, right? Today? Rip Passepartout. Yeah. Definitely could have gone better, but hey. Sometimes the journey is, you know, the goal, not arriving. Ah, gotcha, Rod. So I thought that maybe you meant that you're gonna be doing like a stream late your time, as in, you know, like during the night. So I thought maybe you were still going live in the next, you know, like hour or so. But that's definitely fair then. So late stream for the next day then. Okay, in that case, we're gonna raid over to Barista Peter. He's a big fan of Assassin's Creed, who I recently met on Twitch, and super nice and friendly. He's planning on doing, you know, an AC marathon, so playing for all the games, and he just recently finished Assassin's Creed 3, and since he's gonna be doing all the content, he's currently actually working on the Tyranny of King Washington DLC. Gonna be honest, it's not my favorite DLC out there, but I hope he at least has a great time with it. And yeah, I reckon afterwards he's gonna start Black Flag, I'm assuming. But he's doing full sync as well, so like full completionist for pretty much all the AC games he's playing. No worries, Schiller, for the stream. Thank you also for being here. Going to aim for about a 3-hour stream to do the Haven stuff. That definitely makes sense, yeah, that sounds definitely doable. Like about 1 hour per sequence. The Tyranny of King Washington was a tyranny. True. It was a tyranny on my senses. Okay, I want to give some shoutouts here to some fellow streamers. Maxi has been playing some GTA 4, he's doing a law-abiding citizen playthrough. Rod has been doing AC Revelations and he just finished the main story, he's gonna do AC3 next. Ava has been playing Resident Evil Requiem with the newest DLC, which kind of mixes roguelike elements and the mercenary mode. Chiller has started his first ever playthrough of Hogwarts Legacy. Dex is currently doing his first ever playthrough of AC Chronicles China. Mita is at the moment actually playing some Far Cry 3, if you want to check it out, he's live at this moment. Lucinda has been doing her first ever playthrough of Watch Dogs, and Armageddon has been playing some World of Warcraft. And thank you also again for posting the raid emotes into chat as well, Rod. For those of you that might have missed it. Here they are again. This kind of music would work well with Tintin. That is true. It definitely encapsulates that, you know, wonder of like exploration and traveling quite well. Indeed, Dex, yeah, it's been a bit. Had like a super busy week, and the next week is gonna be even busier. I probably won't be able to stream until... I'm not even sure, to be honest. Because, yeah, much things to do and many unknowns on the horizon. And yeah, honestly, I'm gonna be quite busy until mid of June. But yeah, starting mid of June, I should have quite a bit more time to stream again. But yeah, things are like that sometimes. No worries of a shout out, Chiller. Yeah, I definitely try decks. I try. But yeah, I would say let's go and start the raid to Barista Peter. Playing some AC3 Tyranny of King Washington. And yeah, I will catch you guys next time for the end of 80 days. And until then, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend if I don't see you tomorrow. Until next time.